What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the CotAcasT. My name is Bermudez, and I'm the host of the Craft of the Air podcast, the podcast not just for aviation enthusiasts or professionals, but also those with a general interest in the world of aviation. Join us on our journey as we explore the horizon of aviation together. I'm so glad that you guys are tuned in. It's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one. You already know it. We look at it's a hot topic, and a lot of people have spoken to me about it recently. Over the weekend, I've taken a look at a lot of data into this. Overpriced spring and summer break airfare. It's through the roof. It's out of control. The prices are sky high. But are they? And it's something that, and are there options? And there are options. And for this spring break, if you're listening, for this spring break, and this is, I definitely wanted to, if you haven't been looking at airfare for vacations this upcoming spring break and summer, you're in for a big surprise. You're in for a big surprise. Now, I decided to make this podcast for those listening who may not have access to flight benefits, not necessarily working for the airlines just yet, or don't have access to airline buddy passes, for people that they may know, and people just looking to book something last minute. Is there anything possible? Is there a vacation that involves air travel too expensive this season? Or is there still time? Is there still a way to find some deals? First things first, today's episode of the CotAcasT is brought to you by Craft of the Air. Stop memorizing outdated content and rereading textbooks and things online without really understanding your aviation content, what you really need to understand. If you're looking to obtain your FAA airframe and power plant licenses, Craft of the Air offers personalized learning sessions remotely from the convenience of your house. Are you tired of searching endlessly for unreliable data online? Consulting by Craft of the Air is a second you when you need it. Anything aviation. Visit www.craftoftheair.com. Again, that's www.craftoftheair.com today and speak with a federally licensed professional. Craft of the Air. Our craft is of the air. All right. Now we get into it. Very, very high priced airfare that, we're seeing on a lot of travel websites, or whether, we're looking on Google or using a specific search engine, it looks to be high, but looks could be deceiving. It's possible. It's very possible. Now, domestic airfare in the United States, the fares are up. They are up about 20%. Now, they're 20% higher than they were last year. Now, in comparison, though, the prices that we're seeing online are only about 5% higher than what they were before the pandemic, pre-pandemic levels. So, the average domestic flight in the United States is $264 round trip for the months of March and August. And that's about 5% above what pre-pandemic flights were listed as. Now, this is according to a report issued by travel site Hopper. And so now it's interesting because now are we just seeing prices? Are we just shocked at the prices? And maybe there's people like myself that maybe are not necessarily, getting free flights right now as a flight benefit, right? And you're starting to actually, look at these flight prices. And you're actually starting to price these things out. And you're looking at this, you're like, wow, that's really expensive. I think I just took a look at one from EWR to the Caymans for one person, round trip, it was over 1,600. Now that's before any of the added fees, check bags, anything that needs to be done after that. Now that's up there, considering, and I was in the Caymans last summer, so it's a big jump, but it's maybe something that we just haven't taken a look at over the course of the pandemic, being that air travel in a lot of places were restricted of travel. A lot of people weren't able to go to their desired destinations. Now, according to Hallie Berg, she's a economist at a travel site, Hopper. May is, now this is important, May is expected to be when summer prices peak this year. Airfare should be around $350 per round trip. Now that's going to be about 10% higher of what it was in 2019, but that's still lower than what it was last year. So now that's good news, right? Now it should be noted that U.S. domestic airfare it's forecasted to exceed pre-pandemic prices, and spring-summer travel demand continues to increase. However, they're expected to be lower than they were last year. Now that's good. All right. Probably the best thing that we've seen, and this is said by Frontier Airlines CEO Barry Biffles in an interview on spring break demand. Now, in addition to acknowledgement from Frontier saying, we have a lot of demand coming in right now. Matt Klein from Spirit Airlines, the CCO, told CNBC that there was a travel lull following a new year when schools reopened after a longer than usual holiday break, but that may have perked up for trips through the spring and even beyond peak holiday weeks. Mr. Klein went on to mention that the busiest days of the week are returning to your Friday and Sunday, so you want to avoid these travel days, Fridays and Sundays. And the best deals and the best offers should be on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and really the midweek is really where you want to stay around. Now observe midweek, but you also want to keep in mind, now listeners, the travel, the weeks where there's vacation periods, where large school systems may have a week off, you may start to see fluctuation in the prices, of course. Now, domestically, okay, so it's not too bad. I guess, looking at the numbers and the data, it seems that it's just something that we're not accustomed to seeing, but it's not necessarily outrageously overpriced. And considering inflation and the cost, the increase of cost of just about everything in our daily lives, this is not, something that we need to just stop and say, this is just insanity. But it's a little different now. Now, domestically, okay, but if you're traveling internationally, it's slightly different. Now, according to data from Flight Centre UK, which includes domestic and international flights, economy fares originating from the UK, the United Kingdom, they're currently up 36% from the same time last year. It's already a lot. With COVID restrictions easing, internationally, bookings from the UK to Malaysia and Vietnam are up, get ready for this, 2,200%, excuse me, from last year. Now, last year, both of those countries were closed, both still closed. Now, the highest fare increase internationally, according to Flight Centre UK, fares to New Zealand which are also closed this time, which were also closed the same time last year, those fares are up 81%. Now, is it possible? Is it possible to still find economical trip deals? Of course there is. Couple of keys that I found here, and Scott Keys, the founder of travel site Going, and that was formerly Scott's Cheap Flights. He mentioned many great points, and that there's definitely more deals this year. There's now Europe, especially Portugal, Ireland, Hawaii, Florida. They've all been cheap flight standouts over the past few years, really. While it's worth mentioning that you should consider booking from an international leg, it's Athens is a great choice. Now, Athens, from a lot of various U.S. cities, it could drop your international airfare significantly. Flying directly from a lot of U.S. cities to Athens, it could be sometimes below $500. Now, Friday and Saturday departures, of course, are still the most expensive if you're flying to Europe. Monday for spring breaks. Now, this is important for this upcoming spring break. Monday, flying out on Monday could save you on an average of $140 a ticket. Now, that's about 20%. Now, flying midweek domestically this spring break, it can probably potentially save you about 33%. So it's key. Now is it a priority? I mean, it really depends. Where you need to go. It is advised that if you're traveling for spring break, you should be booking now. That's according to Bergs. Bergs advised travelers should start tracking those fares now for the summer and vacations in May, June, and July. Waiting until the last minute often means, you're gonna miss out on the lowest fare. Ideally, 1 to 3 months in advance for traveling domestic U.S. flights. 2 to 8 months for international flights. For the peak deals, it's more like 3 to 7 months for domestic and 4 to 10 for international flights. So it's timing is key. Now, there are deals available, but what consumers might not want to hear is that they'll have to be flexible. According to, now go back to Haley Berg, Hopper lead economist. She recommends looking at alternative destinations. I like this idea, and this may work for a lot of people. She recommends looking at alternative destinations to some of the more popular places and booking outside of a more traditional part. Depart, and of course, she recommends to depart on a Thursday or Friday, return on a Sunday plan. The timing is key, and this is a great idea. Also worth noting, utilize cars. Now, looking at two examples. Let's get into the data. Let's get down to the numbers. Everybody wants to hear the numbers. Let's get down to the numbers. Looking at two examples. A flight from New York to Dominican Republic. I'm just going to say DR like that. New York to the Dominican Republic is going for $1,691.25. That's from April 10th to April 14th. Now that's without taxes. That's nothing included. Nothing. Now for the same trip, leaving one return day earlier, that price falls to $1,392.25. Now, second example, there's a Spirit, no taxes, anything included with this. A Spirit flight from Detroit to Florida is listed at $411.78, so $411.78. I can't say money without sounding more New York. I'm sorry. $411.78. Now this is from April 7th to April 16th. Now, if you change that from April 8th to the 15th, now you play around those dates, that airfare from Detroit to Florida, it now becomes $233.78. So it's, there's room there. Now, Hopper reported round trip flights to Mexico, Central America from the United States are currently up 60% from last year, and 30% from 2019. So that they're high. They're currently high to Mexico and Central America. So it's something to keep an eye out. Airfare from the United States to the Caribbean islands are currently up 38% from last year, and 9% from 2019. So it's not terrible overall. And while trips to Europe are averaging $706, which is about 45% up from 2022, it is 16% higher than 4 years ago, and that's to Europe. So it's, there's things to consider. I like a quote that I read by Qantas CEO Alan Joyce, and he said, a cheaper airfare are there, I'm quoting him on this, are there for those willing to hunt, end quote, hunt for it. So I mean, it's out there. This is of course Qantas actually posted. They posted a record half-year profit of $1.4 billion. Billion, I said. Bravo. Yes. Nah. Now, in closing, Kayak also shared that the average. There's two key points that. Kayak also shared that the average return economy for international flights across the globe is up more than 21% last year, and Expedia reported that international flight capacity is still only at 77% of pre-pandemic levels. Now, if we thought it was crowded now, and if we thought the prices were terribly high now, we're only at 77% capacity in comparison to what pre-pandemic levels were. So it's interesting. Now, Condé Nast reported that San Juan, New Orleans, Punta Cana, Montego Bay, Fort Myers, Rome, Cabo, Charleston, Key West, and Las Vegas are in the most demand right now for spring break. This spring break. So we may see higher than normal prices there. Now, final things to consider, definitely if you can, book in advance if possible. But looking for spring break and for summer options, you may want to use apps like Hopper and Kiwi. I do like Kiwi for rate prediction and comparisons. You can also set up alerts on those apps as well. I did like the idea of flying to a nearby city and possibly taking transportation or renting a vehicle. I think that's very economical in many cases, depending on the location, the starting location, the ending point. You can also toy around. I've seen a couple of ideas of maybe flying to one location and driving back, or driving to one location and flying back. I gotta say, searching multiple destinations at once on the Google Flight tool it's one of the best tools you could possibly use. And not only that, you could kind of put a broad range and kind of put a broad location. You kind of move the map with that, and so that's key. If possible, if you're traveling and you don't mind sitting separately from people, I mean, why not? What's the point? You're going to go to sleep anyway. And if you can, of course, one of the biggest ways that you can save, the most money by traveling this summer or spring break is going to be to travel on off-peak days. And that'll really save the best amount of money. But that about wraps it up for this week's episode of the CotAcasT. If you guys have not done so already, please take this opportunity to check out the Craft of the Air website at www.craftoftheair.com and get your free initial consultation today. Craft of the Air, our craft is of the air. You see how I kind of went out there? It's getting a little late. Thanks for listening, guys. No editing on this. Thanks for listening, guys. Today's podcast, I really do appreciate it, guys. I hope you guys have a great day. Be sure at some point to follow Craft of the Air, the Instagram. Please do it. And you get our latest CotAcasT episode updates. So that's the best way to follow us. And leave us a review on Spotify podcast or Apple Podcasts. The CotAcasT is now available on Apple Podcasts. Thanks for listening, guys. Have a great day. Be safe, and you'll be hearing from us soon.